Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We provide fan-oriented and analytic discussions on a variety of animated shows, movies, and anime, currently featuring Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, Star Wars Rebels, Moonbeam City, Ruby, and Adventure Time. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I am going to take you solo through the latest episode of Star Wars Rebels, Brothers of the Broken Horn. I've been giving you solo recaps / reviews every week for this season of Star Wars Rebels. And we're gonna continue for the rest of season 2, which could be a while because I think the season's double the length of season 1. Been enjoying it. This is the 4th episode of season 2, 6th if you count, the Siege of Lothal movie. And you can find out about this podcast and about our other coverage shows and things like that at overlyanimated.com. And I want to specifically mention our YouTube channel, Overly Animated Podcast on YouTube, where I know a lot of you listen to this one. So let me get right into Brothers of the Broken Horn. Like I said, the 4th episode, Ezra, spoilers of course and everything like that, and Ezra kind of character study here very interestingly. This one was interesting, this episode. I'm trying to think of a good analog earlier in the series of an episode that just solely focused in on one of our main characters so much. I mean, of course we have combinations of two characters of our ghost crew very often, and I felt like this one is pretty unique because this was just Ezra and a character that was new to this show but from Clone Wars, and then some minor characters we'd seen before on the show. So yeah, I think it's kind of a unique Ezra focused episode. I liked this one. I didn't love it, but I haven't loved any episode yet this season. I think the season's starting out very slow. Not to be too critical, but nothing's been bad. Like, the show's never bad. It's always fine. And this episode I think was maybe the best this season. So let's get that out of the way. I did enjoy it. That being said, I'll still take, a solid 6 episodes from season 1 over this one. But whatever. I like those ones a lot, and I like this one. To me, I think Brothers of the Broken Horn is like a companion piece to Path of the Jedi from season 1. Which is, maybe my favorite episode of this show. The finale of season 1 is very good as well. And so usually on these I ramble about character arcs of each character featured in the episode, and really it's just Ezra, so let's get right into Ezra here. So a lot of this episode isn't trying. What I like about it is the show can be on the nose in terms of its big character moments to make sure it accomplishes what it wants to do, and I think that's a decent strategy. It's better to, put what you want to get through in your audience's face and make sure they understand, rather than you being too subtle and then your point is just largely missed. So at the end of this episode, we have Ezra saying, "I used to be like Hondo, out for myself and alone, but that's not who I am anymore." And then Kanan says, "You're on a different path now." And Ezra says, "I have you guys." So super, super on the nose dialogue at the end. However, I think this episode earned that exchange. You like, okay, so how does a show, kind of earn dialogue? It's tricky. It's nothing, of course, I don't know. That sounds kind of pompous that like it needs, as an audience, I need like dialogue to be earned. But if you're going to make big points and you're going to, make very general statements, then I think there needs to be predicates for what is being said. This is like, okay, so an obvious example of this is like if a character has a big change, a big development, then that needs to be brought up, or else it's unrealistic that a character could change without seeing why. So this is kind of, I guess that's related to Ezra here because, we're commenting on a change from Ezra until now from the beginning of the show. But we've had changed Ezra for quite a while. And like I said, Path of the Jedi featured maybe a stronger version of the conclusion reached in this episode. And I think that might be the biggest criticism of Brothers of the Broken Horn, that it is really just a B-level Path of the Jedi. I mean, I don't know if everyone loved Path of the Jedi as much as I did, but the conclusions Ezra reaches at the end of that episode about himself, how he wants to help people, and that's why, that's what he finds meaning in being a Jedi and being with the Ghost Crew. Those seem stronger than the ones reached here. However, I feel like this episode is allowed to stand on its own. Of course, it's with all the other Ezra development we've had, but I think this episode is allowed to rehash that point because it's it's the biggest thing about Ezra. In the beginning, he was kind of this amoral, selfish force, and now he's a very moral and cooperating with many other people. The force, so it's a big change. It's most characters, it's hard to do something like that. It's kind of not believable. A lot of us view that is not the way people work. I mean, I don't necessarily believe that. I kind of think that journeys like Ezra can be things that, human beings in the real world experience. However, especially when watching it on TV, that's something that's hard to change our perceptions of a character. And for Ezra, the biggest thing going for that change is his age, I think. He was just this abandoned, however old he is, 12-year-old kid or something. And now, as he learns more about the world and as he, enters or goes through puberty or whatever, I think it's realistic that he could take on this big of an essential character change. So I've been really enjoying what they've been doing with Ezra. A character like Ezra, I'm not going to be naturally sympathetic to. I kind of mentioned this. I did these YouTube reviews when I was catching up on season 1. And Ezra when we meet Ezra, he is the most stereotypical character I've ever seen. He is an orphan. He is a trickster. Oh my goodness, this is your typical young male character in this kind of show. And I wasn't loving him at first. He wasn't unsympathetic. I think his voice actor does a very good job kind of making him feel emotions, like a character like Ezra, especially in the beginning when he's a super amoral force, we can just be like, oh wow, look at this jerk. But I think Ezra's voice actor does a very good job of conveying that he's feeling things. And very quickly, I think Ezra kind of becomes sympathetic to me, which is, without knowing my opinions on shows too well, if you're new to the podcast and stuff, that might not mean a lot. I find it hard a lot of times to become invested in male characters in animated shows because I think a lot of the times they're kind of these super emotionally stunted portrayals. Kind of Kanan in the beginning, something like that. Before we really knew who Kanan was, Zeb kind of had good stuff from the beginning. But, actually, now that I think about it, the show really does handle its male character leads very well. They all kind of feel things. That's my biggest thing with male characters. Why can they not feel things? I don't think that's realistic. I'm kind of offended by that notion as a male. If that I feel things, I have emotions. Why can't the characters I'm seeing either? And they're just kind of really boring without them. That's my thing. So, but Ezra is very empathetic to me. I kind of feel for him. I like the kind of development arc he's been on, and I like it continued here in this episode. Just been ranting in general for 5 minutes. But so in this episode, Ezra, to me, I think the big thing here with Ezra, now that I just thought about this, what stands out from this episode? A lot of episodes of Star Wars Rebels are kind of very similar. We have to go get this certain ship object from one of the 3 dealers that we keep going back to. Vizago's one of them. And 2 of our leads go off. Specifically, it's the same thing over and over. But shows in general like that. This one's different because we have just Ezra, and it's what stands out to me, Ezra in this episode from before? I think it's how competent Ezra is. That's kind of a weird thing to focus on, but Ezra just does a lot on his own here. We've kind of seen in the past he needs to be rescued by Zeb, he needs to be rescued by whoever in the crew, and he's always been in training, and he hasn't seemed super powerful. He's done some cool Jedi stuff, but it's nothing that he's accomplished something on his own. And here, of course, the mission screws up, but that always happens. Even if we have the more experienced members of the Ghost on board, it's always going to be kind of a colossal screw up with this crew. But they always, pull it out at the end. So, but Ezra here, he fixes the ship's power. He kind of manipulates the politics of things. He easily cooperates with Chopper. Okay, so Chopper is also in this episode. I never talk about Chopper, but Chopper is super annoying. I will say that. All droids are the most annoying, but Chopper, I like Chopper's use in this episode. I think they kind of straddle the line between how much of a character to make Chopper and not kind of correctly. Like, he's not anywhere close to developed as the rest, although, Hera is absolutely not developed, so maybe Chopper is more of a character than Hera, but that is something I would like to see change soon. And but he's kind of just this chaotic force that works with our main group. And I like how Chopper plays a role here in that Ezra cooperates with him, and you see Ezra's competency, his leadership, maybe his just making the sure with Chopper what to do, and just everything kind of works out. Ezra sees it's going to be with when they go to sell the crates, and as Morgan's there. So I like how Ezra very, very competent. Everything kind of goes well, and I think that this is a progression in his abilities, and we kind of see that in the beginning. He's been training. That's kind of how we open every episode recently. Ezra's training. Here we have the thing with here he's doing his blaster training with Rex, and then he's doing his lightsaber training with Kanan. And then he's like, what if I don't want to do what if I don't want to be either? So he kind of has this crisis of identity, I guess, in the beginning, and then by the end he reassures that, I do want to be with you guys. I don't want to be like Hondo, who is just looking out for himself. And even if I have too much to do, because he also had to clean the ship or something, it's I still want to be with the crew. So I don't know much to say about that specific framing of that arc. Like, I kind of presented in the past 10 minutes how I viewed Ezra's arc with that outside of that framing, if that makes sense. Like, this identity crisis, I don't know how successful the episode is on selling me that that's a thing. It's possible that it reframes it from what am I doing too much? What am I focusing on here? To, do I want to be with these guys at all? It's kind of like it frames Ezra's, it's like, you are doing blaster and lightsaber and cleaning the ghost, or you're doing none of it, right? That's kind of what it gets framed into. And I think I think it makes sense. I'm not questioning the concept. Like, I think it's a logical way to proceed with this arc, but I am kind of questioning, but it's like I kind of lost that initial framing of it, which is fine, because I took my own meaning in, within Ezra's arc as I presented in the previous, X minutes. And I'm not saying I'm right, and that's what I take away from it. It's kind of just how you view the character and how you view the show. So I think it's an opinion thing. So yeah, I'm impressed with Ezra. He did everything really well. I like how he interacted with everyone. It seemed like he kind of considered Hondo's offer for a little bit to join him as a pirate, but which I think makes sense. When you take characters who were one way and then you have them be a new way, one way to make it feel earned that they have really changed, and it's not just this about face, is to remind us that this character isn't 100% with their new identity. Because when this is my impression of how it works in real life, when people kind of have this about face of their entire identity, and you just have no trace of their previous life, it's super, it feels so phony. And I think that that's something a lot of people would agree with. So, like, you have someone in your life who one day reinvents themselves. It's something that a lot of times just does not feel legitimate. And so in a show, if you're going to have a character about face, you need to, give traces of their old ways. So Ezra considering, I think I would make a good pirate there. And he says to Hondo, one time I might have joined your crew. That really sells this change for him, and it makes it feel genuine. So I appreciate these small things that they include with that. Yeah. So other aspects of this episode. So we have Hondo, or whatever his name is. His last name is from. He was a character in Clone Wars, but Hondo Onaka. But I did not watch Clone Wars, so I didn't have much to say about that. He works in this episode. He's kind of a Lando Calrissian type force within this episode compared to Idiot's Lantern. I mean, this episode, I called it kind of a companion piece to Path of the Jedi. It's also kind of a sequel to Idiot's Lantern. Idiot's Array, sorry. Is that a Doctor Who episode, Idiot's Lantern? Anyway, Idiot's Array. This episode is kind of a sequel to. We have Ezra calling himself Lando Calrissian, which is pretty funny, and then we have the return of whatever the red guy's name is, as Morgan. I don't know. He's as Morgan is not the most memorable character, but he brings back memories of Lando, who I think has been the best single guest character on the show. I'm a big fan of Idiot's Array. I think that episode's very good, and I'm hoping that Lando will return soon. I think he will. Anyway, we also have the return of Vizago, who is one of those characters who I just don't remember their function in the show. You know, there's these solid 3 groups of people who've been named who they either sell things for or they get things from, and it's like they're never real people. I guess Vizago is that one who did have a legitimate scene with Ezra, who told him where Kanan would be. And when they went to Vizago at the end, probably in the third to last episode or second to last episode last season, I was like, who is this guy? I guess I remember his name, but I don't remember seeing him. So that's the scene I remember Vizago for, and Ezra brought that up specifically, or Vizago did. So I remember that from that. So I guess the show, sometimes I guess you have to point things out blatantly like that, especially with super minor characters. I have nothing to say about Vizago. I don't care about him. As Morgan is okay. I like how over the top he is. And one thing with this Morgan is he's kind of competent. I'm talking about competency a lot. That's kind of a recurring theme of our Moonbeam City conversations. But talking about the main character of that show, whether he's competent, but in terms of villains, if you're having comedic villains, it kind of adds a layer of legitimacy to them if they seem competent at what they're doing. And as Morgan always presents a real threat, so I like how they've handled him. So I mean, he's just there for a little bit. But anyway, Hondo's the big force here. And we kind of have a Lando Calrissian type dynamic. It's like, who is this guy? What is his real role in things? Well, who's he? Is he's on our side? It's similar. Both functioned as we never really questioned it, but we never strayed off from them being a help to our heroes. And Hondo's the same as Lando in that they're both just these forces of kind of chaotic good on the entire time. But it's what specifically are they going to do to achieve that good? It's they're probably not going to betray our main characters, and they never really do, either of them. I guess Hondo, I thought at one point that's where we're going with Hondo, and then it turned around very quickly. I guess he tries to get out, and then I guess, I don't know. It's confusing. And then I guess he's kind of betraying them at the end, and then Chopper set its autopilot back to them, and then he's trying to worm his way out of it. I thought the ending was pretty good, pretty funny. And it wasn't obvious what was going on, so I liked that, I guess, although it was a little chaotic at the end, a little hard to figure out. Anyway, some people might be like, no, it's not. It was too simple, this episode. And I feel I'm not super focused on the specifics plotty of what's going on. I feel like the character motivations and stuff were the more, and I also think that's what the episode was focusing on too. I feel like that was pretty clearly the focal point here. It was what's going on with Ezra. So, I like Hondo's role in this. I like how, he interacts with Ezra. Ezra has a lot of older male forces in his life, so here's another one who's influencing him. And so I don't know, I don't have much to have more to say about how Hondo functions. I question why we have him and not Lando. I feel like they're a similar thing here, and obviously they're different, and Lando's this actual character, and then Hondo's from this other show. And I don't have the attachment to the other show, so I don't get as much from his appearance here. And we're kind of going. This season is kind of give back characters from Clone Wars. So I think we have too many characters from Clone Wars. Let's have characters from the show. But that's a whole another discussion about how they handle this show being part of a larger Star Wars mythology, which I have had before in these solo discussions. But yeah, so I like him. I'd like to see him back. He was, I'm a longtime Jedi sympathizer. He says he was old friends with the Jedi, or were we friends? And I think I don't know. He was either referring to, Anakin or Ashoka, one of them. Anyway, so the plot of this episode is not super, it's kind of simple. It's also not super important. Let's go through specifics as I look at my show notes that I took during the outline. During the outline that I took during the show. We had the whole thing with Vizago's droids. Yeah, I haven't talked about that. And the kind of switch to turn them on and off, and Ezra kind of takes that. And then we have the whole thing passing around of the switch for the droids. Visually, I think the show keeps track of that pretty well. That's kind of, I don't know, it's a weird thing to bring up on a podcast, but things like that can get lost if you don't have your visual cues set properly. Choppers were all in this. We had Chopper wielding guns in. Yeah, that was interesting. Chopper just comes out shooting. I don't know if we'd seen that before. That was kind of striking. We talked about Ezra fixing the power. We had the Empire here for a second, but this is an Empire light episode for sure. They're smuggling power generators with a 500% markup. You remind me of a great pirate I know, me, he says. So yeah, there's that whole thing where it's like, oh, Ezra's young me. I feel like we've had this with several older male role models for Ezra. As Morgan, the Chopper back up, he's not Calriss, man. You lied to me. I knew I liked you. That was a nice line from Hondo. We've got Mondo says, join my crew and we'll split it in the middle 50-40 to his own expenses. Ezra wants the generators and he joined his crew for a second. I don't want to leave the ghost, he says to Chopper. Not really. So I like that framing. It's like we actually have legitimizing this identity crisis for Ezra. We have maybe I'd make a good pirate. Inquisitors don't hunt them. I think that's kind of showing that Ezra's kind of wearing from the constant threat from the Empire here, which I like. No, we don't see our Inquisitors this episode that we saw last time, but they remain a presence in Ezra's fears, maybe. Vizago, you owe me, remember, I gave you info and saved your Jedi friend. Vizago stole back the droid activator, attacked them. I hate children. They go back to whatever planet they're on. They mentioned a lot of planets here, and none of them are relevant, so I didn't keep track. Where Hondo will be, Hondo with the rest of the Ghost crew. Chopper had the thing on autopilot. You can keep the generators. At one time, might have joined your crew. Okay. And then, tell Commander Sato that Ezra found his generators, says Hera. So clearly them being proud of Ezra, wanting to give him credit. I feel like they should be mad at Ezra. He kind of took the ship on his own. That seemed like not the thing to do. So that's showing that there's more trust for Ezra among the Ghost crew. So there you go. I know I just read quotes from the episode, but a little bit. Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So, Brothers of the Broken Horn overall, I liked it. I think it might be my favorite episode this season. Episode 2 is also kind of strong. The Lost Commanders. Relics and Lothal, Relics and Broken Horn are the two strong ones. And Always Two There Are and Lost Commanders are... I'm waiting for a kind of standout episode. To me, I look at season 1, I see Rise of the Old Masters, I see Breaking Ranks, I see Path of the Jedi, Idiot's Array, and Fire Across the Galaxy. And I don't think any of these episodes have stood out to that group of episodes so far. Of course, my opinion. Idiot's Array is kind of a personal favorite. Same thing with Breaking Ranks, Most people, I think, would agree that it hasn't been incredible so far, though. That's kind of the thing with the show. We're questioning what is Star Wars Rebels. We're losing. We lost Greg Weisman this season, and he is brilliant. So Greg Weisman. So what are we going to do without him with just Dave Filoni and Simon Kinberg? I'm, you're wondering whether the show can maintain its season 1 quality, but at the end of season 1, I didn't want the show to maintain the quality. I wanted it to improve. Like, the season was good. It was very good at season 1 for its TV show, but I kind of want more from that, especially for a property such as Star Wars with so much riding on it. So I'm a little on the fence right now. I mean, I'm going to keep watching and keep talking about it, but I'm wondering whether the show will achieve the critical quality level that I kind of hope and expect it does. Next week is Wings of the Master. At least Disney is airing this show every week, unlike their other property that we cover, Gravity Falls, and unlike Comedy Central, which had random spacing for Moonbeam City, which is not new tonight, so there's no podcast on that. I wonder what the crossover is between people who listen to our Rebels and Moonbeam City podcast. Probably 0. Anyway, that's all. Yes, that's it for this one, Bros of the Broken Heart. On the AV Club scale, I'd give this like a B+, I guess. I don't think the review is up yet, so we'll check on that when I get there. Yeah, it was okay. It was good. It was good. I just want more, so that's why I'm saying it's okay. And I don't think that's super unreasonable. I think that it is very possible that the show can do better. So there you go. So let me know if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment and I'll reply whether you agree with my assessment or not. Am I too low on the show? Am I too high? Am I missing some vital things? What Star Wars mythology aspects did I get wrong? Because I'm not an expert on that, although I try to do the research before I record these. So there you go. I'm Dylan Hysen, and you can find out more about this podcast at overlyanimated.com. Oh boy, our next podcast might not be for a while. It might not be until next Wednesday, because no Moonbeam City tonight. Ruby, I also feel like is not new on Sunday, and no Gravity Falls on Monday. So the one thing that we have coming up are Adventure Time podcasts. I know Adventure Time is new this week. I am frantically catching up on the show. I was like 2 years behind. So we will have coverage in time for the miniseries in 2 weeks. And before that, we'll have at least one podcast or so. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Check out overlyanimated.com for more. Let me know what you thought of this. I get very little feedback on these podcasts. I would appreciate any that you can provide. And thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye.